Mall collapse, gas explosions, train derails, highway bridges, expressway bridges, cracked, broken, fallen apart. Over 12 structures collapsed, 50,000 households without power, and so much more. Why is this happening in Japan? I'll show you all the videos of all the stuff that has happened, but I want to start with that mall because I was doing some digging and I found something very strange about that mall. That mall has already collapsed before and they had to rebuild it over 2.5 years, and now it has exploded and has collapsed. Some stories have pancaked again. So why? It's really a little bit of a mystery, the mall that was rebuilt twice. So this shopping mall was destroyed by an earthquake once already, and now again, and that in Japan. That's unusual because they're so well prepared. So they spent 2 years and 3 months, to be precise, to rebuild it, and now it has collapsed again. And at this time something inside exploded, and you see the video of the explosion, how this shoots out. So that definitely doesn't look like just an earthquake was shaking it and it was collapsing. We've seen the videos of Venezuela, how it happens when buildings pancake. Nothing looked like that. Also, what I'm about to tell you is in my video that I just released a few hours ago, I told you what aftershocks to watch out for, that we should watch out for a magnitude 5.9 and 6.0. I explained it with the bathtub effect, that usually as Swedish scientists, they can prove that usually it is like this, that if you deduct 1.1 or 1.2 magnitude from the main quake, this is the size of aftershock that you can expect. And yeah, we now do have an aftershock 6.1 hit 41 minutes after the main quake. So that number was somewhat predictable. So it was not just luck that I said that, it was a law with a name, right? But first, let's talk about that mall, because everything that has to do with this building tells you or is an example of what Japan is afraid of the most when it comes to earthquakes. This is really their nightmare scenario. It's the AEON Mall in Kumamoto. It sits in the Kashima Town in the Kumamoto Prefecture. It's right next door to Mashiki. That is the town that had the most intense shaking registered, the highest on that shaking scale that Japan has. 7. Has nothing to do with the magnitude, right? And it has recorded maximum shaking twice. In 2016, we also had the problem there. So when that quake hit Japan at 4:27 in the morning, in the afternoon, the mall was open. People were in the mall. They were shopping. Customers were evacuated then because they were getting an earthquake warning, it seems, in time. And then after the evacuation already happened, then there was an explosion and part of the building collapsed, came down. I mean, if you see these images, this looks like Fukushima at first, I thought. I'm like, oh my God, is this a nuclear power plant? Is this some chemical plant? It really looked like some. I didn't think that this was a mall. Thankfully, it was a mall. So the officials said the blast was heard on the second floor of the mall. The second floor is basically where the ceiling and the facade gave way. So you can see it's open, but it was more than that. You can see the bare structure, the steel beams, they were also blown out. And here's the important number that is driving the whole rescue operation right now. There were 20 or 30 employees that were still inside the mall that could not be contacted. So they assume that right now, not customers, but employees are trapped inside the mall. So those people whose job is it to stay behind and make sure that everyone is out in case of an evacuation. And in videos that you'll just see after this, you see how calm the Japanese people remain when they're evacuating buildings. Some even just stay seated in a multi-story, 20-story building when it's shaking because they trust their engineering and they're used to this. So that's why probably these customers thought this is a fairly new mall. We don't need to worry about it collapsing. So the reports that we're getting, 4 people were pulled out conscious and they were taken to hospital. 6 more have been rescued since then. One or two person seemed to have a heart attack, probably from the stress, and 5 were pulled out with injuries, but they're not life-threatening. So that's a good thing. But the problem is, and that's the sad part, at least 10 people are still unaccounted for. And we hear from multiple Japanese broadcasters. They say that people were lost inside the building. So official count has not yet been confirmed, and I really do not want to make a guess on that number, guys. Nobody should at that time. But why did it explode? I mean, gas. Was it a gas explosion? You should have automatic shut-off valves in an earthquake. So how could this happen in a country like Japan? And of course, my first thought was, geez, if Japan looks like this after a magnitude 7.1, I don't want to see the west coast of Canada and the US, how this will look, because they're way less prepared. Vancouver, I tell you, it's over and out in my opinion. But let's get back to the shopping mall. Why did it explode? Authorities believe right now that it was a gas leak. And if you see the videos, how this shoots out from the side, it's kind of weird. So definitely, to me, this looks like some kind of explosion and not just like normal pancaking of a building. Unfortunately, we have seen quite a few buildings pancake after the Venezuela double earthquake. So this does not look like this, right? TV Asahi, a local Japanese news station, has reported officials are describing a strong smell of gas at the scene, which would support that there is a gas leak. But why is it still smelling? It's not shut off somewhere outside of that building. Really, gas in an earthquake-prone area makes me, I don't really like it. Of course, investigation right now is ongoing. So what I'm about to tell you, treat this somewhat of like as like a working theory, not a proven verdict, I would say. But there is something that why I would say that this theory is entirely plausible. And I haven't really heard that explanation before, so this is just my 2 cents. This is a large shopping mall, right? That you can see. A mall this size is not just one building with a few shops. This is basically an industrial complex, and it is also an industrial gas customer for that reason, right? It's called the AEON Mall in Kumamoto. It has a full restaurant mall, like food court, a food hall, a supermarket, large anchor store, also a natural hot spring bathhouse on site, as it seems, a gas station in the grounds. So some mixture, but food court. So that means we do have commercial kitchens, commercial kitchen lines, commercial water heaters, boilers, dozens of gas appliances, not just one, many, right? Hundreds of meters of gas pipe, hundreds of feet that is running through the building, through ceiling voids and service risers that nobody ever sees if you're shopping in the mall, right? Or even working in the mall. And so now apply this intensity 7 shaking. So with intensity 7 shaking, I just want to explain that quickly. I don't mean the magnitude 7.1. Japan has a scale. How strong was a shaking? And 7 is the roof. 7 is the maximum because it was so shallow under this densely populated area. So maximum shaking with all these gas lines. So yes, I researched that, although it was a no-brainer. I had no doubt that this was the fact, that the Japanese buildings and the Japanese gas meters have automatic seismic shut-offs that should be like outside the building, right? So that the gas can't get into the building after the shaking. They cut supply when they basically feel a quake. That basically protects the supply line. But the problem is, and this is kind of scary because I'm thinking about, what about my home, right? It does not help with the gas that's already inside the building. at the time when the quake hits in the pipework that has just been wrenched sideways. If that happens to a pipe, they can break. So I'm thinking about all the high rises in Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, Cascadia, magnitude 9 plus. I always thought, yeah, that automatic seismic shutoff should protect you. I don't think it does. So that's why everyone expects large fires after a devastating earthquake. So a joint shears from the shaking, flexible hose that's behind an oven tears. This is what you have to imagine what happened there maybe. Gas escapes into an enclosed ceiling, can't get out. That is basically space with no ventilation. And because the power is out, there's no extraction fans that they probably had in these buildings or kitchens. They stopped as well. And if we have a situation like this, guys, it only needs one spark, a relay that is clicking, only that, a pilot light, something as simple as that, an emergency light kicking in, even someone's phone. Think about that. This is crazy. So what we see there, and if people are really lost in there, this is not an earthquake fatality. This is basically, we can call this a secondary disaster. Of course, it is related. And I want to say one thing, what I found when I was researching this, in the Japanese disaster planning, and they do quite a bit, they have to with this country, the secondary disasters are what they fear the most. Isn't that interesting? Because these disasters, they arrive after basically everyone has already relaxed. Oh, I survived the shaking, my roof didn't collapse above my head, all good. And then you look at your phone, you make a spark and poof. This is scary. And I think we're learning something right now. If you have gas in your home, a bigger apartment building, towers, even private home, right? I'm the German, I have to say, I don't know if Germans always like fresh air, so they always have windows open everywhere all the time. We do not like air condition or just forced air. So yeah, I always have windows and everything open, so maybe that would help, but I'm not so sure. But again, secondary disaster. Everyone has relaxed, customers were out. The building was supposed to be safe. And now, this is an interesting fact. I'm going to tell you something that I haven't seen anybody else report about right now, because I was digging deeper. This is an interesting detail. So, this mall opened on October 10th in 2005. So it's not quite 21 years old. It's modern construction, modern Japanese seismic code, of course. And locals, right now, it had a different name. They still call it by its original name. That was the name Claire. And then April 2016, the Kumamoto earthquakes hit. The mall shut down the very next day and basically traded out of its own car park. It was selling food and water to the town, to everyone who needed it. So, but it was damaged. It took 2 years and 3 months to fully reopen. That's quite a long time. So interesting, the western section of that mall at that time, it wasn't repaired. It was demolished, and then it was rebuilt from the ground up with a brand new 2-story wing. So full reopening was just a short while ago, July 20th, 2018. And now we have the quake, July 28th, 2026, almost 8 years to the week after it reopened, after they finished putting that mall back together. And don't say this is a curse or something like this. I still say that's the cost you have if you're living in a country like this, seismically active and on a fault. But there's something that's even more dangerous than the mall right now, because rescuers because rescuers are now working inside a partially collapsed building while the ground is still shaking with these aftershocks. So this is so highly dangerous because more could collapse. And let me show you the number that I gave you yesterday in my other video, that I gave you just a few hours ago in my other video, and why I have to say that number landed. In my first video, I said an aftershock in the magnitude 5.9 to 6.0 range is scientifically plausible. I told you about the Bath law, right? Swedish seismologists call it BOTS, not Bath, but simple rule, biggest aftershock in a sequence usually lands 1.1 to 1.2 magnitude units below the main shock. So if we have 7.1, subtract 1.1 to 1.2, and you have 5.9 to 6.0. And at 5:08 p.m., 41 minutes later, magnitude 6.1 actually struck. So again, the bathtub law is not used to do earthquakes predictions. But it predicts a statistical tendency that we can say, and it holds. It really holds across earthquake sequences worldwide, and it did hold here, as you see. And that's why it is so important never to treat the first earthquake as the big one, the main shock, because you don't know yet, right? And I have to say, there's a brutal reason why that is so important. Magnitude 6 releases a fraction of the power of a magnitude 7. But if this lands on already damaged buildings, a magnitude 6.1 is fairly strong, especially if it's shallow and right underneath, right? Cracked walls, foundations have shifted through the shaking. We have loosened slopes, landslides. I've shown you the videos. There were landslides coming down. And then we have this partially collapsed mall with rescuers in it that is highly unstable. So second hit doesn't need to be that strong, only needs to be strong enough. Aftershocks kept coming through the night, including magnitude 4.1 just after midnight. And they're dealing with this right now. So if we widen the picture a little bit, look beyond the mall, where does Kumamoto stand right now? What is the current status? So around 300,000 people were told to go to evacuation centers. There's 178 sites across Kumamoto City that are closed and converted into shelters right now. There's a paper mill in Yatsuhiro. I showed you that the top of a chimney came down, and workers are unaccounted for still right now from that. We have the Kyushu expressway that ruptured. We have aerial footage that shows two elevated sections basically knocked out of alignment with vehicles trapped on there. We have at least, that's coming in right now, 12 buildings that have collapsed, several unfortunately with people still inside, most of them in Yatsuhiro. We have at least 7 fires that have burned across the prefecture. We have a cargo train that has derailed. We have 48,300 households that has lost power. Bullet trains have stopped. Kumamoto Airport has canceled every flight for the day, and the main hospital is at 400 beds full. So it's full, it's at capacity. Most of the time they're taking in people with fractured bones, like from furniture that fell or something that fell on them. The hospital building itself is damaged. It has water leaks, and it has also collapsed interior walls. So that building isn't even safe to go there. They have right now motivated thousands of self-defense force personnel that has been mobilized. So in the evening, thankfully, tsunami advisories were lifted at 6:10. So that threat is finished for now. This was the first time that Japan has recorded this high scale of intensity shaking, like they call it Shindo 7 maximum shaking. since the Noto earthquake that happened in January 2024. So Prime Minister right now has asked the people in the hardest hit areas to stay alert for another earthquake of the similar size. This is what they always do after earthquakes like this. And they do this because what happened in 2016, we had a 6.5 and then an even stronger one, a 7.3, only 28 hours later. And we're still in that window right now. So we have to see what are the aftershocks doing. Are they remaining clustered around Uki, or are they start wandering along the fault, which would indicate then that another part of the fault could rupture. So I'll keep an eye on this. This was my current update. There'll be more updates for you. I hope that was interesting for you, and I'll check out this video. This is crazy as well. So much going on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting this channel, guys. I see you soon.